Oh, the 5th Ed books. There are so many of these campaign modules that are out there now, like from Storm King's Thunder, Curse of Strahd, Tomb of Annihilation, right? There's a lot of stuff that's out there. They've got all of the Waterdeep stuff that's come out.
I really want to do Storm King's Thunder. I haven't done it yet. I've never talked to anybody who has.
Well, that's my question is, which one piques your interest the most?
Storm King's Thunder.
Yeah, right.
We have a wealth of giant minis, and I just want to use them all.
Yeah, I guess we have loads of giant minis. Shocker for me, mine's probably Tyranny of Dragons, to be honest. I have both of those books now. Yeah,
I've heard that.
I'd like to do it
I've heard that the first one's hard to run.
It might be. I don't know. It seems pretty simple to follow. I've read through the campaign book, and it seems simple to follow. I think what I'm realizing with the published modules is it's because they're not linear. You can move things around. I think for newer DMs, when they're like, I don't know where to go, or you hear those things of, how do I keep them on track?
Yeah.
It's like, what's on track?
Yeah.
They go wherever they want. You just got to learn to prepare for that.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't say that it's hard to run. It's hard to run if you just generally don't know what you're doing.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I was a fantastic, lovely advice giver for a new DM who was all like, well, what should I do? What should I take over? And I'm like, well, what do you want to do?
Take over? What do you mean?
Well, he's taking over my old campaign because I've had some time constraints come into my life.
Oh, right, okay.
I'm just like, how about you DM and I'll play and we'll do this thing. So I'm going to be playing Acronis. I will be playing the first
hilarious.
Acronis. But he's like, well, I want to take everyone to level 20, but I don't really want to homebrew anything. I'm like, well, there's only one real module that'll take you to 20, so here's the Maze of the Mad Wizard.
The Dungeon of the Mad Wizard.
Yeah, Dungeon of
Maze
the Mad
of the Mad Wizard. God damn it. Welcome to Dungeons and Dragons.
Maze of the Mad Mage. But I was like, here, look at this. It might be a good idea.
Have you looked at that? That is the most expansive mega dungeon that is in existence.
I would love
it's all about Undermountain, right?
Yeah, but it's also about Waterdeep as well, right? So you're jumping into a metropolis with a mega dungeon and big epic themes up to level 20, and he's a relatively new DM, too. Yeah. And so he told me this, and I went, whoa, stop.
Trial by fire.
Stop. I have a suggestion. Before you run out of a book, make sure that you want to run out of a book.
Yeah.
So right? You passed on the Tales of the Yawning Portal to him, right?
That one's going to be harder. If you decide we're going off book, that one's going to be harder to go off book.
Yeah.
Especially a fixed dungeon like that.
Tales of the Yawning Portal, which is the one that I'm most excited, that's one that I want to do. I want to run from level 1 up to level, I think it's 15. Mm-hmm. You go all the way through it, but you end with Tomb of Horrors, so everyone dies. Yeah. Right? So
spoiler alert.
By necessity.
Everyone dies.
Yeah. By necessity.
But it's seven dungeons. Each one will last a few sessions, right? So I said, look, take the one, we're all level 5, take the one that's meant for 3 to 5, like levels 3 to 5.
Yeah.
And run that one, because it's a bunch of new players. They're not going to be quite as effective as, say, we would be at a table. They're not going to be as tactical as a general rule. They're still learning their stuff. So run that. See if it's comfortable working out of a book. And if you don't like it, you at least have kind of a skeleton of how other people do it, because you've read this book.
Yeah.
And then homebrew your own thing.
Yeah. The other thing I recommended to him is to like check out other fantasy sources and be like pull inspiration from there. And so I was like, watch Lord of the Rings 3 times. The entire thing, just watch it all the way through.
Lord of the Rings is the worst way to get inspired for D&D.
I disagree. I get so I love
We'll fight about this another time.
Okay.
We should probably start at this because I've got some points.
There's plenty of movies on hiking.
I love Lord of the Rings. For the record, before I get all this hate mail, I love Lord of the Rings. It is a fantastic book. It's a better than average series of movies. It's not a good RPG. I'm just throwing that out there. By D&D rules for heroes, not great.
Well, pulling inspiration and getting a concept of what a party should look like. I mean, they have everything but a divine spellcaster.
I'll take the hate. I don't even like Lord of the Rings that much.
You're British.
And I didn't
you
even
have
enjoy
to
the
like
book.
Lord of the Rings.
Nope, only foreigners like British things. See how many Harry Potter fans there is on this continent? We don't even give a shit, to be honest. How many times I've been stood in King's Cross Station and not even fucking cared once about Harry Potter?
I would like to point out that we've just given up on this no F-bomb rule.
Yeah, I guess.
Over the last 3
I think I'm curdy. I think I only do one a session.
We get one a session. I try not to. But sometimes Adam makes me upset.
Okay, should we go on to what we were supposed to talk about?
Yeah, I want to talk about... I want this to be the first episode that we're doing that's away from the pillars, right? So we did the 3 pillars beforehand.
Which are?
Which are combat, exploration, and role-playing.
Yay.
And then we did our special secret episode, and if you haven't listened to it yet, go listen to it. It's amazing. 6 men enter, 1 man leaves.
Well, 2 men leave. Well, one tries to leave and then
I'm pretty sure
fades to black.
One man leaves. 1 man probably gets drowned at some point. Like there was a lot of water.
There was a lot of water.
Anyway, yeah. And then we did the last episode that we just did was the mailbag episode.
Yeah.
So what I want to do is kind of jump into a new theme here, where every 7 episodes we return to an idea. And the first idea I wanted to discuss was lore, specifically the fantasy genre. And Forgotten Realms and kind of where that sits in it, because Forgotten Realms is the official setting of D&D.
Yeah.
Which confused me at first, because in my head I always thought it was Greyhawk, right? So
yeah, that's your old.
Yeah, when 4th Ed came around and they're like, "Oh no, it's Forgotten Realms," and 5th Ed just like went gangbusters on it. I went, "Okay, I guess we're in Faerun now." Right.
So, well, 4th Ed went gangbusters. Like it was technically big in 4th Ed before it was big. Like 4th Ed really pushed that Forgotten Realms was the main one, and that's when they handled the spell plague and justified that crappy mechanic of encounter powers by waving their hands and saying spell plague. And no,
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Well, we'll get into it.
You lost me at gangbusters.
It's not what you think.
Okay.
It's not what you think. So I want to talk about Forgotten Realms because we choose to play in this setting. We're not playing science fiction games. We're not playing horror games. We're not playing like Victorian era. Like this is a fantasy setting, and so many people are drawn to it. And I kind of want to know A, why, what draws us specifically to it, and then B, what is Forgotten Realms giving us to scratch that itch that's so fantastic? This is going to be really helpful for other people to homebrew or to decide whether or not they want to dive into a homebrew in Forgotten Realms, or maybe take some other material and adapt it into this setting. So that's kind of where I want to go with this episode. But first, let's hit the music.
Sure. All right.
Welcome to It's a Mimic with your DMs, Adam, Dan, and Terry.
And we're back. So it is Adam again. Obviously, by now, this is episode 11, plus those first 5 specials. You're used to my voice. With me, again, as always, are Dan and Terry. Say hello.
Guten Tag.
Really?
Yeah, we're going international.
Buongiorno.
That was so... Dan speaks the 3rd best Italian. Side note, why do you people say Italian? We don't have time. We don't have time.
Okay. All right. So let's get into.
We could get straight up multicultural and like ni hao, konnichiwa, like.
Well, we were Russian for 4.5 hours.
Well, so. You guys were Russian for 4.5 hours. I was not.
Mine was coming in and out by the end.
I gave up before I started.
Yeah. So I want to just dive into what exactly is the fantasy genre. Okay, so let's start there. I want to roll initiative to see kind of who's going first, but we're talking kind of by the broad strokes, not even necessarily D&D, just the genre. Mm-hmm. What is it to you? I got a 16.
I got a 5.
I got a 6.
I'm going last. Shocker.
Someone is going to actually. You mentioned in like episode 7 that you wanted someone to put together a list. Someone will.
I want someone to track it. Yeah.
Sure.
Fine, guys, I'll do it. God.
Yeah, that's
someone. Adam, we'll do this. Adam.
Terry. We need you to track stats. Okay, what is this? Hell? No.
All right. So
you want me to open Excel on my own? No.
I don't do numbers. I do feelings.
I hope that's your pickup line, man. All right, so the fantasy genre.
No, we're gone.
All right, so the fantasy genre, okay? It's different things to different people. For a lot of people, it's World of Warcraft. For a lot of people, it's Lord of the Rings. For a lot of people, it's Harry Potter. What is it to you guys specifically? Because the fantasy genre, to me, was always fairy tales. I got into Lord of the Rings in my late teens. Like a lot of kids find it at the age of 12 and 13 and they dive into it. I was doing a lot of reading novels and stuff, but it was all Stephen King. I went to horror genre.
And you also had like an expansive like Star Wars expanded universe.
Oh, absolutely. I was all over Star Wars. Star Trek too, like anything sci-fi related. And then I had the epiphany that Star Wars isn't science fiction, it's fantasy. And that kind of bridged me over into it because there's no science in Star Wars. It's, oh, we're in spaceships. How does it work? Shut up. Right? So,
why don't the lasers move at the speed of light? Shut up.
It's laser swords. How do they end? Shut up. So
how do these wizards work? Midichlorians. Ah, crap. Well, we should have shut up.
They even say in the first one, they call old Ben the crazy old wizard, right? So there's a lot of parallels. Back before George Lucas had a universe, he had one basic idea, and that was kind of the pulp fantasy science fiction genre that was mashed together. It was perfectly normal in the 30s and 40s. Your Flash Gordon, your Buck Rogers,
John Carter Mars, those
right? Yeah. So,
good movie.
Okay.
Which one? Because I am going to judge you depending on your answer to that question. Any of them.
But so that was kind of where I got my start with it. And what I wanted to see, and you guys will know this from playing in my campaigns, my idea of fantasy is very multicultural metropolis kind of feel. It's very Mos Eisley, right? When you walk into the Mos Eisley Cantina, you can walk into a similar cantina in my campaign, only it's orcs and Goliaths, and they're all sitting around together, and it's like a melting pot. And so that's where I come from. And yes, there are like orc tribes out in the plains, and there are barbarians and druids, and there's high magic and wizards and towers and stuff. But your base level is really your cityscape. That's you can see. You walk into a bookstore and you see someone who is unable to speak Common, right, which is the standard language in Dungeons and Dragons. But he's got a little translator doodad sitting on the counter in the shape of a mouth, and when he speaks, it starts to glow, and then you hear Common come out of it. It's my universal translator that I have like now worked into my fantasy setting, right? Mm-hmm. So I really come from this, like, I love the idea of high magic that's available but rare. And there's all sorts of different cultures and peoples that are butting heads. There's no like real bad blood necessarily between orcs and gnolls at a base level in my campaigns. Yeah. Just because for me it is very Star Wars. It's not Lord of the Rings where an elf and a dwarf are in the same room. Tension. Yeah. Right? Like I don't play that way. I have a very different kind of fantasy that I.
Yours is more that they nothing each other as opposed to dislike each other. It's like they just whatever, they just disregard each other maybe.
Yeah, pretty much. It's like when you're in high school and you see someone from another high school at the mall, you don't like. It's not the 50s. We don't start pulling our switchblades and
singing,
dancing in unison, right? Like we're not all like
walking
snapping
down the street snapping.
Yeah. Right. So that's not what we do. We look at them and they go, "Oh, they root for the other football team," and then they move right along, right? Like that's it. And so that's kind of where I'm coming from in my fantasy. Who went next? Dan.
That was Dan,
obviously, because Terry goes last.
Yeah, every time.
I've for D&D and romance. Go.
I grew up and my mom read me The Hobbit when I was 5, right? Like I've been immersed in fantasy from a very young age. One of the first series of books I read all the way through was the Belgariad, which is by David Eddings, which is all about wizards and everything else, and I freaking love it. Read it so much that my books started falling apart, so one Christmas my mom got me a new one, and then that one fell apart. The thing I love about fantasy is like even as it went on and then media, like reading about Conan the Barbarian and all these other things, like I've always felt like I'm one of those people that's removed from an age. Like I had friends in high school said, Dan, you would have been great in the gladiatorial arenas just because I'm a big guy. And I really identified with that, and that's one of the reasons why my main character was always, that half-orc barbarian who was just swinging an axe around and might is right and that kind of stuff, right?
You really seem to grasp onto the idea of the sword and sorcery. Level of fantasy.
And I always have. I've really loved it. And it's like, and I haven't put that much thought into it. Like the other day, you're all like, this is actually years ago, you were like, Star Wars is a fantasy, it's not a sci-fi. I'm like, you're wrong. And then I made actually thought about it.
You think about
it. Still in Oscar mode. I actually thought about it, and I'm like, no, crap, he's right again. But it's what I've always loved. I love the lack of technological hand waving. For me, it was always okay to be like, it was magic, then it was science. That's just where I was.
And you're still with that train of thought as it's okay?
As I've grown,
yeah.
Not so much. Like, I love seeing guns in my games now, whereas before I was an ardent opponent of that. Like, you do not have gunpowder in my fantasy. Get your guns out of it. But now I'm like, why can't we have automatons? Like, why can't we put a little bit of steampunk in this? Why can't we put a little bit of Victorian era? Like,
so you're leaning out of Greyhawk into Eberron.
Then, yeah. So like when I started playing D&D, I was 8 years old, and it was all Greyhawk. Like I vividly remember sitting around a table walking through the streets of Castle Greyhawk with my buddies. Like, I vividly remember going to Verbabonk and all these other things in the old Elemental Evil campaign arcs and adventure paths. Like,
I'm sorry, I got to pause you. You said Castle Greyhawk, and I immediately just flashed back to Castle Grayskull.
They're the same thing.
Yeah, and I just realized that my first introduction to fantasy was He-Man and the Masters of the Universe.
Yep.
Because I grew up in the 80s, right? Like, it was that and probably the Disney Gummy Bears cartoon. Now that I'm thinking about it, like, that was like...
Well, even Smurfs to a lesser extent. Like, Gargamel lived inside of a little tower.
Yeah, well... Absolutely Smurfs, I would agree with that, even though it seems kind of stupid, because for me, my idea of fantasy is pretty much something that cannot exist or cannot occur or happen in the real world. So whether that be Star Wars, or whether it be Smurfs, or The Walking Dead is a fantastical idea. It is not possible in the real world. And so that's why I don't mind when, like you were talking about science and hand-waving and things, because we don't have the answers.
Yeah.
So you can't always look for answers in the fantasy campaign because the physics is being broken. We don't understand it. So that hand-waving of it was magic is fine because that's what we expect.
And even the explanations of the magic, like, oh, it's part of the weave.
Yeah.
Or there was the spell plague, or like whatever.
Or it's the force.
Yeah, it's still all hand-waving bullshit when you get down to it.
Yeah.
Right? But, and that's a part of fantasy. That's why I think science fiction is a subgenre of fantasy, because it's the same thing. If you're in Star Trek, and they have technological ways of dealing with issues, they're still hand-waving it by putting a tachyon pulse through the deflector dish.
Yeah, because...
What does that mean? It's just techno bullshit.
Because
right?
to tell the story of what they're doing, we don't have those answers.
Yeah.
So we have to come up with something. You're never going to get a fantasy campaign where somebody can explain the purple blast or the magic missile coming from someone's hand.
And even when they do, and they go, oh, well, the tachyon blast is this, and the ions do this, and on and on. And I'm like, okay, how does that work in real life? Oh, it doesn't. Then you're making shit up.
Then you're making it up,
right?
And that's okay. That's what we're here for. That's what it's all about.
Absolutely. So, what's your favorite part of fantasy? Like, why do you come to this genre as opposed to playing Call of Cthulhu or Shadowrun or one of these other? What is it? Mutants
Masterminds.
Yeah, right.
That's superheroes.
That's a superhero one, right?
Yeah. So why are we playing in D&D as opposed to the others? Besides just the ease of the rules and the familiarity, but
yeah, I think for me, it's not that I prefer D&D fantasy over the idea of something like Shadowrun, like something cyberpunk or something like that, or steampunk. It's just you have to go to a certain place to explore a certain idea. So I grew up as a kid and I read fantasy books and things like that. And so when I'm in the mood for 3 years at a time to explore the fantasy genre, you'll naturally come to D&D. We know that there's campaign settings such as Spelljammer, but from my experience, that doesn't work as well as just using another platform to do it with.
No, that's fair. Dan, why do you come to fantasy over and over again? Because you have more fantasy experience than anyone else I know. Like, you have explored World of Warcraft beyond, as much as you've explored D&D, right? Like,
well, I really identify with the fantasy genre. I really identify with the sword and sorcery specifics of the fantasy genre. I had a friend in high school who was very into sci-fi, and we had a bit of a falling out, and he completely decided that all swords and everything else were garbage because Dan liked them. Because of the immense falling out we had, and
he's probably right. But continue.
Well, I looked into
side with him.
Yeah. I love sword and sorcery so much. Like I looked into becoming a blacksmith. I looked into taking like fencing classes and dueling classes and stuff like that, just so I could really embrace my nerddom. I've always gone to it. I like the simplicity of it, to be honest. there is a certain, for lack of a better term, rural hominess to it for me. Like it's a comfortable place. It's a safety blanket. Some people, they really like their cornbread or biscuits and gravy or some sort of food from their past. That's what fantasy is to me. It's this thing I always go to.
Nostalgic.
It's very nostalgic to me, right? And yeah, like I still play World of Warcraft to this day, and I met my wife on World of Warcraft. I am a part of 3 D&D groups, and we all play. And these are varying levels of technology into it, right? I want to run these other games, and I have run. I ran a massive Vampire the Masquerade campaign. I ran a massive...
Did you wear black nail polish when you did it?
What is that game good? I've seen it.
Vampire the Masquerade.
I have only seen people make fun of it. I am totally coming from an unfair perspective.
Yeah.
Vampire the Masquerade is just off-brain for a minute. Is a fantastic game, but there is a subculture of the group that is... they take it a bit too far, in my opinion. Just like every fandom has that, right?
Yeah. And D&D, we know that happens
and
as well.
The Vampire the Masquerade one is very popularized by things like, the love of Buffy the Vampire Slayer and all that other stuff.
I always felt like it was more Anne Rice than Buffy.
Felt like it
is both. It is really both. There were like different tribes. It's also very biblical, like the history of vampires and all that other stuff was pulled of, well, no, this is, Cain and Abel. Cain killed Abel. God cursed Cain. Cain go through, and from his bloodline came vampires, right? And depending on what generation of vampire you are is how close to Cain you are.
Oh, that's neat.
I actually like that.
Yeah, no, it's very, and then there's like different bloodlines that have gone off. So like, and these different bloodlines have different powers and abilities to them. Like,
well, I gotta ask, could Cain kick Dracula's ass?
Yes, because Cain is like a first, I think they call it Antediluvian or whatever it is. It's this weird convoluted word, but he's the first vampire. He's the first.
Yeah.
Dracula is like a level 3.
Sure.
Kind of guy. He's not a direct son of Cain. He's a step under. So
he's like his grandkid.
Yeah, and like there's power of a sire over a.
Sure. Okay. Could Strahd kick his ass?
Could Strahd kick his ass? Oh, without a doubt, no.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. I was just wondering what power level.
Strahd is a pansy.
Strahd's also a high level wizard, though. So
true. And
he also weeps for his lost beloved every night.
Well, the thing is with vampire, there's also like, I know you guys are trying to pull me back into D&D here, but
no.
There is a each bloodline of these vampires have different powers that manifest in different ways. So there's like your Bruja, which are
very Twilight of you.
Yeah. Right. No, it's actually very similar than Twilight in that way, but. The Bruja are like these big, muscular, like they're the bruisers of it. There's the Malkavian, which I love. So the guys who are, you start the game and you choose actual clinical psychoses for your character.
Crazy.
And literally, yeah.
You have to choose a crazy.
You have to choose a crazy for.
Oh god, it's like dating.
And they have different powers to it. It's also a completely different system involving D10s and point buying and.
Right. Okay. So these different bloodlines, are those your classes or your races? Or
they are.
That why it's
they
in the
are
game?
your races. It follows very, very much in the Shadowrun frame of mind, where there is no actual classes. They have kind of templates. So if you want to play a street samurai, here's a template of a street samurai. But the way you attribute your points is how you just make your character. There's no I'm playing a street samurai and thus get these powers. It's you put the points in this way to become a street samurai.
Right. Okay.
I'm going to ask the question everyone's thinking, all right? I'm not going to sugarcoat it. Is it about sex? Yeah.
Which one?
Is it about sex? I don't know.
Well, what kind of sex?
I'm just feeling sexy vampires right now. That's what I'm feeling.
There is a faction of the Vampire the Masquerade.
Yes, the answer is yes.
I knew they were out there.
Yeah, orgies are a thing.
I knew they were out there on forums.
But they're the same thing. Like there are some LARPing groups I've heard.
See, this is it. Before the internet, we could hide these people, and we didn't. They couldn't bother us, and now they're out there.
Now I'm sitting in one of their basements.
I'm sitting in one of their basements.
I'm not as bad as other people I've met.
So,
all right, enough about your vampire fantasies.
All right, so hold on.
Settings.
Hold on. So we talked briefly about how this felt like it was inspired by Buffy and by Anne Rice stuff.
Yeah.
Right? I'm assuming there's a Dracula feel to it as
well.
well.
Yeah, there's an actual Dracula.
Yeah, right. You had said that. What is your favorite inspiration for fantasy? Like, what's the thing that you lean on heavily that's not D&D? Right? What's the thing that you think of?
My answer...
We rolling or just
going? No.
Yeah. My answer may surprise you.
Terry.
Do you know what? And this may not be one for the fantasy hipsters. It might be a bit mainstream, but you'll understand why. Well, both of you will. I'm just really into A Song of Ice and Fire because it's gritty and it's dark. Everybody dies,
and it never ends.
And it never ends. Name me one happy person in Westeros. I'll wait.
Hot pie.
Actually, yeah. Stupid people are always happy.
I like hot pie.
Stupid people are always happy because if you're stupid, it only hurts other people. But I like Song of Ice and Fire because it's got all of the fantasy things I need, dragons and magic.
I love that you just took the phrase "ignorance is bliss" and turned into "stupid people are always happy."
Oh, did I just quote it wrong?
He's like dumbed it down for the dumb people.
But because of that grittiness, the darkness, and the basically, I'll sit here for 8 hours and suffer is the type of D&D I like to play. That's why I love those books. I think they're amazing.
You're welcome.
Yeah. Adam, would you like to comment on the sit for 8 hours and suffer?
We have it's a really weird sub-dom D&D relationship, which I feel like I always come back to on this podcast. I'm like, Adam, just hurt me, just mess me up, and send me back to work on a Monday morning.
We're talking D10s or D12s here.
Exactly. You enter the dungeon finally.
All right, so Dan, what is your answer? Let's just get right off that topic.
I really lean on Conan the Barbarian and its entire world. It's very traditional, pulp, sword, and sorcery, and I love it to death.
That makes a lot of sense, because when we were doing the Wizard Tower, you were a barbarian that was running right up to investigate the things, and I will just dive right in to go get that crystal and the key.
Yeah.
You weren't barbarian, I'm a hit it. You were, but there was more to it. Conan the Barbarian is like a rogue. Really, everything he does is sneaks.
He's a strong.
Yeah, he's a bit of a strategist.
Yeah. Right. He's a perfect example of how barbarians don't necessarily have to be stupid. Now, I played Oscar, all kinds of dumb, but
well, you kind of have to.
You kind of have to when you have 8 in it and 7 in wisdom.
Yeah.
But when you are pulling from these kind of sources, you can see that barbarians don't you could break the tropes by leaning on other tropes. So the whole. Conan the Barbarian,
I want to get into this next episode. We're going to do a barbarian episode next.
I love barbarians so much.
So we'll do a deep dive into that, but keep going without.
If you follow a lot of Conan's lore with his tribe that he grew up with being a bunch of blacksmiths and sword crafters who worshipped the power of steel and stuff like that, this mindset of these rural people with their off-kilter beliefs, and then they're taken over by this, militaristic warlord who's James Earl Jones. It's absolutely fantastic. And then they made a game for it, Conan the Reckoning or whatever it was called. That was terrible.
Oh, of course. When was it made?
The video game?
Yeah.
Oh, this was in 2008. I want to say it was to fight up against the behemoth that was World of Warcraft that so many people just failed against.
Yeah, I don't even remember that game, to be honest.
It was one of the. It was the big selling point was we got titties.
On the Conan game.
Yeah, no,
they should have just made a Red Sonja game.
You bought. Well, she's in the same universe.
No, I know,
but they produced the game and they had to release a massive thing saying, "Hey, sorry that the players the guide that you get inside the cover of the game back in the old days before you just did digital downloads, was full of naked women and stuff, because those were the old pulp fictions. You had your overly muscled barbarian warlord character leaning back and having the 6 harem of women around him feeding him grapes, and everyone's greasy and shiny.
Everybody knows what you're talking about when you say the old fantasy cover of the guy. 2 hands on the hilt of the sword. The sword is 6 times the size he is.
Yeah.
He's pointing it directly up. He's looking up, and there's a woman at his feet, grasping. Her hands are wrapped around his
or over the
calf.
Shoulder with impossible dimensions.
Yeah,
I feel like her organs are failing just by looking at her waist.
Yeah, right. So, for me, I don't know if you guys are versed in this at all. I'm big on the Dark Tower.
Oh yeah.
Like Stephen King was such an inspiration to me.
I'm not, but I know we've talked about it a couple of times where you've kind of talked to me about it a little bit, but I'm not too up on it.
I love the idea of the lone heroes, the group that are forced together, but then choose each other, and they keep moving through this world that is either dying or they're finding these relics and artifacts from a long lost civilization that they're now bringing up, and they're so overpowered compared to the other aspects of the world that are around them now. Everybody is kind of down on their luck and mundane, and I mean, I even have in the campaign we're running now, like there are these old ancient artifacts that you guys can find every once in a while that just knock you 3 levels higher than you should be operating at any given point, right? And you guys just found like the Eye of Vecna.
Yeah.
Right. So that's kind of what I mean. You have these super powered items.
Artifacts,
that you're running across. And the world is full of mundane humans that are dying off. And there's this great evil and that is going to not just wipe out the world, but all of existence. Right. And that's like, I just love that side of fantasy, the nihilistic, the world is coming to an end if we don't save it, and not just it will be ruled by an evil overlord, but we're just going to grind the wheel of time that always turns will grind to a halt and fall over, and now there's nothing but dust. Right? That's kind of what you guys are up against in this campaign, and it occurred to me like a year into it of writing this campaign that I'm like, oh shit, this is where I'm getting it from. Okay, all right, so I have to learn not to write myself in as a character. That's going to be a big stumbling block. But that's it for me. I think that's... I mean, there's so many other places that you can grab fantasy from. It's funny that none of us said Tolkien.
Yeah, none of us... Well, Tolkien's a massive one for me as well.
I already told you guys before. Like, I'm not even... honestly, like, and I'm sure someone can rant at me for 3 hours and I'll ignore them, but I never got it. I was like, what is the big deal here? I don't understand.
Yeah.
But
I didn't even read The Hobbit till I was 31.
Really?
Yeah, I had read Lord of the Rings and the Silmarillion a few times.
Yeah,
but I never bothered with this freaking kids book. Like, why do I care?
Yeah.
So I kind of get it. Like, and then I read it and I went, why do I care?
Maybe it's because it's just a bit too clean. That's all it is. It's just a bit too clean.
Well, it's also over popularized at this point to a certain extent, which is why I find a lot of groups are kind of shying away from the tropes that are established in Lord of the Rings.
Yeah,
but. I know a lot of groups that I've seen play through church or whatever lean heavily on either C.S. Lewis or Tolkien.
I was going to wonder how long it was going to be before we brought up the Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe.
Yeah, read a couple, 2 of them when I was a kid, like when I was like 10 or 11 or something.
I read through the entire chain like 3 or 4 times.
And I enjoyed those books actually. I remember enjoying them. And it's not that I have really anything against Lord of the Rings. I just don't get that passion when I read it. It just didn't hit me. Same as music, though, right? It just hits people in different ways. It just
you know what hit me hard. Well, everybody else, like speaking of fantasy, like inspired people at a young age. I ran across a giant tome in my grandmother's house of old Grimm's fairy tales.
Yeah,
when like I think I was 10 or something, and I found this, and I didn't read all of it, not by a damn sight. But I ran across The Little Mermaid and like the real version of The Little Mermaid.
The dark, right?
Yeah, and I went, what? So
where's my singing crab?
Well, obviously I like that stuff. I'm like, torture me. It's gonna be good.
But that put me on the path to the dark and gritty too. And I love the grim and even some of the Mother Goose stuff. You look into the background of it, like Ring Around the Rosie.
That's grim with 2 M's then.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Brothers.
But even the like Ring Around the Rosie rhyme and stuff, like there's dark.
That's about the plague, isn't it?
Yeah.
The burning plague. Yeah.
Yeah. I'll also because playing with you in your campaigns, Adam, I have started to get more of an inspiration for the dark and a love for the dark. Usually, I'm all about the shining heroes defeating the Grand Evil, right? but
your alignment has changed.
There's a podcast out there called Lore. It's by Aaron Mahnke. It's another great source of inspiration because he just goes through all of these old things of folklore, which are these old grim tales and all these other things, and monsters and he goes through the Wendigo and all these other monsters.
Yeah, when you start dealing with real trolls from actual Norse mythology, that shit's terrifying.
Yeah.
Right?
It's unsettling at best.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, and even the fairies. Like the Feywild, it would be dark if it was from that original Celtic and I guess Greek. There's a lot of Greek in the Feywild as well, right?
Yeah, there is.
Satyrs.
Right. I would like the idea of the Celtic style sort of fairies where it's kind of like what we were talking about before about the Feywild. It's just that they just think differently.
Yeah.
If you die, that's not a problem for them. They just wanted their story or whatever.
Yeah. Like you're going to sit here for the next 11,000 years.
Yeah.
And you're going to tell me this one long story. It doesn't matter where it begins, where it ends, but you have to do it for 11,000 years.
Yeah.
Or I will eat your babies. And when you sit there and say, I only live till 80, they go, well, don't.
Yeah.
Choose to live longer, right? And I what do you do with that?
Yeah,
that's frightening, right?
Yeah.
So alien. But anyways, we're a D&D podcast.
Yeah.
So as much as I love all of these inspirations,
I could go on longer.
Was Warhammer. Dan, let's talk about Warhammer.
Well, there's Warhammer. There's the sort of
Oh, that was a joke without adding my.
No. I could keep going. I am currently listening to a series of books called that starts with the Lies of Loch Lamora. It is a fantastic source of inspiration if you want to play a bard or a rogue.
I thought this was a Warhammer book.
No. This is another bend into fantasy, and it's alchemy and everything is all part of this world that is crafted. And this guy's a part of a group of con artists who are just trying to steal money, and then they get wrapped in this plot, and it's awesome.
Yeah.
But there's that. There's Xanth and all your Piers Anthony books. There's Discworld. I don't know why we haven't mentioned that, right? I'm playing a character now. Lockie is heavily inspired by Dresden, right? You could pull from these fantasy sources, even though Dresden's more modern day setting. You could pull from all these modern day sources and put them into your games relatively easily.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that I like about Forgotten Realms. I'm going to just circle back to where we should be. Is that you can inspire any sort of story in this setting from any one of these different points of inspiration. You can bring your Conan the Barbarian in, or your orcs versus humans in from World of Warcraft, right? You can grab talking lions from C.S. Lewis, right? You can grab from different places and bring it in, and it all kind of fits in Forgotten Realms.
It's almost like Forgotten Realms, when you think about the other D&D campaign settings, is almost like the neutral setting, where the expectations aren't left or right. It's so you can go Forgotten Realms and you can go kind of dark with it, and people will be like, okay, But with some of the other campaign settings, if you start changing the expectations of what's to be expected, it doesn't work. Forgotten Realms, you can move it around a little bit.
Yeah, it's difficult to inject your Star Wars into Barovia.
Yeah,
right, or your Lord of the Rings into Dark Sun. Sometimes it'll transfer over. Like Conan will go into Dark Sun.
Yeah, quite well.
Yeah, right,
that would be really good. Write that down.
But. You're right. Forgotten Realms seems to be the blank slate where it'll take just about anything. You pull a piece out, put another piece in.
It is standard, generic, high fantasy setting. That's what it is.
So I want to talk about what exactly Forgotten Realms is, but let's do that after the commercial.
Okay.
How cool would it be to hear your company name on this podcast? Pretty stinking cool. It's a Mimic is ready to take our show to the next level. We want to partner with other awesome businesses to share your brand with our listeners. Please email us at info@itsamimic.com for advertising information.
Okay, so Dan, you by far have the most experience with the Forgotten Realms. I'm going to say outright that I have played a couple of campaigns in it, and I didn't like it. I thought it was super limiting. As much as we say that you could put anything in it, I got stuck in here is this story, and I felt like I was playing... one of them, I was a part of the Vanguard for Drizzt.
Oh.
And he was an NPC, and we were just there to protect him while he was doing missions.
Groundbreaking.
Oh my god, it was painful.
Someone had a serious love for their fantasy characters.
But, so there's good and bad from from Forgotten Realms, I've seen a lot of the bad side of it.
Yeah.
But Dan, you've seen a lot of the good side of it. And so I have a bunch of questions. This is going to be heavy on you. I don't even want to roll initiative for that. Terry and I are going to roll initiative.
Sure.
Just to see who can ask questions. You got to aim for the box, Terry. 11?
10.
You just can never go
last. No. It's just, I don't even know why I bother rolling.
I'm going to start rolling a d12 again. I'm still going to get higher.
Yeah, you would still win.
But I want to talk about what Forgotten Realms actually is.
Yep.
For the people out there that don't know, where does it come from and why is it so beloved?
So it's been around since AD&D. It's been around for years. Ed Greenwood is its kind of creator and grandfather. He made it in '67 for his own personal, like as his own personal homebrew campaign setting. And then around, I want to say 76, it became an AD&D book that was released.
Like a novel?
No, like an actual campaign setting.
Okay.
He sold all of the rights to TSR once he had kind of built a rough view of it.
All right, so hold on. A background for those of you that don't know, TSR used to own D&D before Wizards of the Coast.
Yeah, that was old Gary Gygax's baby. That was his company.
Tactical, strategic, tactics and strategy. I'm not going to get it.
No, neither am I.
It stands for
It's
something.
on the tip of my tongue.
Yeah.
But TSR ran with it, and then Wizards of the Coast, which now own it, which were popular with their Magic the Gathering game, bought Dungeons and Dragons and all of its properties, and there's that. So the default campaign setting for Dungeons and Dragons for a very long time was Greyhawk. Through AD&D, 3rd edition, 3.5.
Greyhawk is very sword and sorcery.
It's also very sword and sorcery. It's very similar to the Forgotten Realms in a lot of ways, but it didn't quite have the same breadth of literature that was being written around it. And a lot of literature was being written outside of it. And in terms of like novels, for the Forgotten Realms, more so than was getting written in the Greyhawk world.
Yeah, I would also say that if I remember correctly, Greyhawk didn't have the technology side of D&D?
No, it was straight old-fashioned sword and sorcery. There were no guns, there was no cannons, there was no...
That wasn't even an option.
Yeah, no, it wasn't. It was very much like knights and castles and serfdoms.
There wasn't even like oil lanterns. It was cannons.
No, there was the oil lanterns
in Greyhawk.
Yeah,
all right. I never played with them.
But they were like the highfalutin things that you would get. Like if you were having a urban campaign in Old Greyhawk, you'd get your hooded lantern, and that was like if someone saw you on the street carrying a hooded lantern, you were assumed a thief, and then you were pursued by.
Right, that's what I mean. Like right? It's all candles and torches.
It's mostly candles and torches with like it's very old style swords and sorcery.
I would kind of enjoy that. I think I would enjoy that a lot for a short time.
It's great for a one-off, and then but with all the literature that was being written and TSR was paying people to write these books, the Forgotten Realms really took off, and so many people were detailing so many different sections of it that it just became a bigger and bigger and bigger thing, and it became kind of the main campaign setting that Wizards and TSR released in later editions that people played in, but Greyhawk and Oerth were still the main one. Until about 4th edition, when Wizards of the Coast really embraced.
Well, there's a big push in 3.5 because I remember the Forgotten Realms campaign setting.
Yeah,
but there's also the Faerun book as well.
Yeah, well, that was in response to R.A. Salvatore's run with Dritz and all those other guys. Like R.A. Salvatore really reinvigorated the drive and the passion for.
Because he murdered Star Wars for me. Some of you will know what I'm talking about.
I will never look at a moon the same way again.
Exactly. Keep talking. He killed Chewbacca
with the moon. He did it the right way.
He dropped the moon on him.
The only way you can kill Chewbacca is by like him saving a bunch of people and then yelling in definance as he gets smushed by a moon.
Like the gravity of the planet or whatever. Just the moon
the Yuzan Fong put gravity wells in this planet, and Chewbacca and Anakin Solo are loading up the Millennium Falcon, and Anakin's stuck on the ground, and at the last minute, Chewbacca grabs him, throws him in.
Han Solo's kid in the old version before they rebooted it.
Okay. Just tell me I got this right. So a moon, to my knowledge, relatively large. It's coming.
They're kind of big.
And it got to the point where Anakin could escape, but Chewbacca couldn't.
There was one load left that they could throw on the Millennium Falcon.
Of refugees.
And in order to save Anakin, Chewbacca hopped out, threw Anakin in.
Oh, he couldn't fit, you mean?
Anakin was stuck on the planet, I remember. I read Vector Prime so long ago.
Yeah, the ship is hovering above the ground, and Anakin is a child and can't get up.
Yeah.
So Chewbacca went down to grab and lift him up. Meanwhile, the planet is breaking apart underneath him. So he didn't then have time to get back on it, and the world fell apart underneath him. So Chewbacca is sinking, the ship flies out, and the moon lands on top of him.
And there's this paragraph of silhouetted Chewbacca, arms raised, getting just destroyed by the moon.
The only time that I ever cried in a Star Wars anything. I was upset. I will never forgive him. Anyway, continue.
However, you didn't cry in the pod races?
That was a different kind of tears. Those were tears of rage.
Yeah. Anyways, the R.A. Salvatore, aside from his work in comics and Star Wars, really reinvigorated what the Forgotten Realms was, and 3.5's response to that was, well, let's find a way to bring these characters and everything else from all of these other authors in. I've got 4 dozen Forgotten Realms books right behind Adam there that I've read. It's fantastic if you look down there on the shelf.
Yeah.
I'm making my way through all the old tales of Ed Greenwood and his Wizard of Elminster and everything else, and the stories he wrote about him growing up. Rereading my way through those right now. But yeah, that's the long. Yeah, I've got Vector Prime right there.
I'm finding it now. I've tuned out.
Okay, no. How about you put the book down and we'll reminisce later.
People have got to get to work. Right where they're going.
All right.
But yeah, so Ed Greenwood really spearheaded it, created it, gave a platform for others to build onto it by selling the property to TSR, and then going on to write a bunch of books himself. R.A. Salvatore contributed, a bunch of other authors dipped into this as well, and built up things like, Waterdeep and Neverwinter. There was the Neverwinter Nights video game, which really brought this out as well.
Yeah, I sunk more than a few hours into that back in the day.
Yeah, we recently tried to play it, and they turned their servers off, and me and my buddy Russell were just like, no, and it's finally over. So we started playing the Neverwinter MMO that came out, and then realized it was all 4th edition and stopped.
Yeah, all right.
Switch.
I can get behind that.
Yeah. But yeah, so Origins, Ed Greenwood, everybody else building onto it, and then Wizards of the Coast really embraced it with 4th edition and made it their thing. And to make it their thing, they entered in the Spell Plague, which...
Well, hold on. Before we get to the Spell Plague, I remember having a conversation with you about 6 months ago where I said, Dan, this was in the first incarnation of the podcast before it was called It's a Mimic. And we recorded a handful of episodes, and they were terrible.
Yeah.
Right, so
not great.
Not good. But I remember telling you that I asked you, do you know why they call it the Forgotten Realms?
Oh, yeah.
And you didn't know.
Not then, and I have since
done
some research.
Yeah. I've always wondered. So, in fact, I've been walking around pretending that I knew.
All right. So this is one of the handful of things that I do know about Forgotten Realms.
Okay.
The Forgotten Realms are called the Forgotten Realms because there is 15,000 years of written history about it.
Okay.
You know how we have
way more than that.
Is it more than that?
Yeah. The first Sundering was around 30,000 years. So
right, but we've lost a lot of that knowledge. There's still
there's the Age of Giants or whatever they call it, or Age of Thunder. Yeah, that's what Age of Thunder, which they starts off, which is tens of thousands of years
so
ago.
certain ages, civilizations that get collapsed and then rebuilt.
So the Forgotten Realms is because there's so many ruins and there's so many bits and pieces over the last 15,000 years that are being rediscovered. Mm-hmm. These temples to gods that you've never heard of before that are sunk down, swallowed by the jungle. And so now you can adventure to go find these things. It's what Chult is, right? The Tomb of Annihilation. Yeah. It's one of these long forgotten relics.
It's not even that far off, but something that came up in the reading that I thought was absolutely awesome and inspiring, and I really want to roll a different character now. Lizard folk, bullywugs, and Aarakocra are the distant relatives of the creatures who ran the show in the Days of Thunder before anything else happened. Right? Like,
the old lizard people.
They're like lizards, amphibians, and bird people ran all of the world before the elves even showed up.
Lizard folk, Bullywugs, and Aarakocra sounds like a pretty sick group of 3 metal bands, if you ask me. But sure.
Yeah. Bullywug? Bullywug's a good metal band name?
Well, there's some pretty bad ones out there.
It's true.
Yeah.
Days of Thunder's a pretty good band, too.
So, all right, hold on. I'm gonna pause Dan for a second. Terry, when I say the Forgotten Realms, what are the cities you think of right off the bat?
I would think of Neverwinter. I'd think of Waterdeep, Baldur's Gate. Those are the 3.
What's the difference?
I don't know. See, my experience with the Forgotten Realms is I was talking to you guys off air. Is the whole drag and drop is what I use the Forgotten Realms for. I've never really played in the Forgotten Realms. I've just gone, oh, that city would be great over here. Yoink, put it down.
My experience with Terry in the Forgotten Realms was not even half, the intro to the first session of Curse of Strahd. You guys are walking down the road and you come across some Vistani sitting there and they've got this what was it, crystal balls. Come over here, we'll reach your fortune. And then you're in Barovia. That's the amount of time that we have spent in the last 2 years in the Forgotten Realms. Yeah. That's all of it. It was
5 minutes.
Yeah, about a narration. It was a prologue. So
it makes me deeply sad.
I can tell you where you were on that map. You were by the point of something. The Think Sharp Teeth? I don't know where you were.
Well, the Spine of the World's there. The Kingdom of Many Arrows is up to the north. High Forest, were they by Neverwinter? Or Waterdeep?
Sure.
Yeah.
The Sword Mountains?
One of those. It was a road.
It was a road.
It was a long road. There were farmlands. I vaguely remember there being farmlands. Anyway, not the point. The point is, Dan, what's the difference between Neverwinter, Waterdeep, and Baldur's Gate? These are our 3 big cities, right?
Waterdeep is...
It's the metropolis.
It is the metropolis of Metropolis. It is the center of pretty much everything. It is, on the map, it's centered between the 3 of them, which is fairly awesome. I'm fairly certain. I'm not exactly sure where on the map Baldur's Gate... Oh, yeah.
It's way in the south.
So we got a map to reference here, just in case we sound like idiots. But Waterdeep is very much the large metropolis. Before it was very much just kind of a hand-waved, it's a big city and there's a maze under it, which the Mad Mage created an Undermountain, and people would go down into this dungeon, which constantly changed to get to this fabled artifact in the bottom of it.
What is the artifact? Do you have any idea?
I don't know off the top of my head. I think is it the Starstone?
Could be. I haven't read.
I don't know.
My Pathfinder might be bleeding in because the Starstone might be a Pathfinder thing. Okay. But it's.
We would undoubtedly not use whatever it is anyway and change it.
Tell us in the comments, please. Tell us in the comments.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's that one artifact that makes you a god.
Sure, the MacGuffin, God MacGuffin,
the God MacGuffin. So it's the Lords of Waterdeep kind of rule what is Faerun now. They are the center of Faerun as much as it is. Neverwinter is very much a...
You mean the Lords Alliance? Is that what...
Yeah, well, no. I mean specifically the Lords of Waterdeep, which is the council that runs Waterdeep.
Yeah, okay.
Is separate from the Lords Alliance.
The Lords Alliance, by my understanding, is lords from various cities and areas.
All get together.
Like a confederation.
Yeah.
Okay.
And... Yes, you're right.
Okay.
But they come from everywhere, from Cormyr and Amn and Evermeet and everywhere, and then come back. Anyways, Neverwinter is very much it's a port town. It's a very large center of commerce for the area.
But it didn't used to be. This is a recent thing in the current lore, right? So Neverwinter was. Beset upon by orcs and then other evil things as well.
Yeah.
And then I think it was 4th edition said, you know what, you saved Neverwinter.
Yeah.
It is now back on the map and it's a bustling city within the last decade.
Yeah.
So it's come back really recently. So there's a lot of story potential there of being kind of on the fringes of the north.
Yeah. Baldur's Gate is a massive town to the far south. Baldur's Gate is named after a...
Baldur?
Yeah, Baldur, and a big-ass gate that is in the city. It's another
Is it like a gate to another dimension, or is it just like white picket fence and chain link, maybe?
My knowledge of Baldur's Gate is very low and distant. I played the video games back way when, and I've recently heard that you could get them downloaded on your phone and have avoided doing it because I occasionally need to make money.
You need to do,
and I need to do my job. And if I get those games on my phone, goodbye paycheck.
Sure.
But,
okay.
Yeah. So it's another one of those.
But
bustling.
Baldur was a like almost a Hercules level hero way back in the day, and so he's a fabled folk hero, really, right?
Yeah.
So that's where he comes from, and they founded the city either around him or they renamed it after him.
They renamed it after him.
So, what are the main conflicts in Forgotten Realms?
We could go for days on this. Every single,
just the main ones. Like if you had to say there are three, right? Are we talking? Hold on, before you get into it, are we talking the Underdark versus the Surface? Are we talking orcs versus humans? Are we talking elves versus dwarves? What are your conflicts?
Okay, you want to go big scale? Okay.
Yeah. I don't care what this guy told that guy.
Okay, elves versus drow.
Sure. Okay.
And like specifically elves versus drow.
This is an active conflict, not just a
never-ending fight. Since before the age of man, this fight has been going.
So, almost like is it like a Cold War? Or is it like an active war?
No, it's an active war.
Still
like
fighting.
If a drow walked into a high elf city, chances are they're going to get killed on the spot, right? Like
so the idea is that the Underdark starts. We're going to get into the Underdark in 7 episodes. It's going to be our next lore episode. But the Underdark starts 3 miles below the surface and pops up out in like the wild. There are these little openings or these caves, and so they've got their ways up to the surface. The elves know where these things are, and so they like have fortified around them.
Watch on. Oh, it's not more than a watch. It's they've fortified around it.
Yeah.
To stop anything from coming out.
So it is drow versus elves.
And dwarves. Dwarves are also heavily involved here because they're the ones who...
They're underground
mining.
So they often accidentally go into the...
But on top of that, dwarves and elves are also the long-lived races in the Forgotten Realms. So there's a lot of infighting between elves and dwarves because they were the two races that really came up, and then from the elves, the drow were created, while elves and dwarves were the big things, right?
Yeah, so... but I would say that it's really that area, the 3 miles beneath the surface, that's where that fight would be happening. Mm-hmm. For the most part, sometimes the drow will get out to the surface, but they don't do well under the sun. Like they've been cursed by their gods when they became drow, when they were turned into dark elves. So
what do the drow want? What is their goal?
The elimination of all elves.
But then they would just continue to live in the Underdark?
Well, essentially they want revenge on the elven gods that cursed them.
Yeah.
Right.
So, and Lolth, their goddess, has said, stick with me and I'll help you do it. Now, that is by the broad strokes, and there are people that are beating their heads against their steering wheels listening to this on the way to work. But that is
there's a lot to it. Like, the thing about the Forgotten Realms is there is... Like I said earlier, there are decades of people pouring into this that made it canon.
Coming from all angles, it's going to change.
And then 4th edition said, well, some of that's canon, others isn't, because the spell plague happened. And Mystra died for the 3rd time, and then has since come back with 5th edition.
Mystra being the goddess of magic.
Yeah.
So what are the other two? You said there was 3 main ones.
There is the fight between Thay and Ruathim, or specifically everybody and Thay.
The hell's Thay?
Thay is a Majocracy.
I'm sorry, all I can think of now is the Grindhouse movies by Tarantino. And remember, you had like all the trailers and like, don't, right? And Thanksgiving. And did you guys ever see the Grindhouse, or am I just spitting the wind?
No, I never did.
All right, so he's got a whole bunch of fake trailers that are just like cheesy bullshit. Exploitation trailers.
Is Danny Trejo in one of them?
One of them was Hobo with a shotgun.
That's where Machete came from.
Machete's one of those.
It was a trailer.
Yeah. And so
Hobo with a shotgun, I've seen actually.
Yeah. So, but all of this was fake stuff. I remember they had a movie called They. That was very much in the same pulp idea. So every time that you say, up against Thay, all I can think of are giant ants attacking a movie theater. Because that is the level of crap that So
no.
So no, it's not giant insects.
Thay,
Should be.
Thay, is a majocracy, which is a country ruled by wizards. Specifically, it is...
That's not a real word, is it?
It is once you... We're talking about Dungeons and Dragons, man.
Saying.
Like, words are made up all the time.
A majocracy.
But Thay is one of the greatest civilizations in the Forgotten Realms, in Faerun. And it is ruled by a guy by the name of Zaz-Tam.
Obviously, yes.
Yeah, who is a Arch-Lich of massive power. And the Red Wizards of Thay, for very many generations, were a conglomerate of liches, specifically liches, who used a sort of pact magic kind of thing to create these massively powerful spells.
So Thay is not giant ants, it's undead.
It's undead. Recently, Zaz-Tam, because he's been cowed by a lot of other adventures and past adventure paths and things, has since allowed like humans and various living...
How very 2019
wizards,
of him, yes.
Yeah, into his thing, but they mostly just end up becoming his servants.
What's his name? Razmataz?
Zaz-Tam. It does have a Z in it. S-Z-A-S-S space T-A-M.
Zaz-Tam.
I don't think I'll ever work with that character because of I just have a strong dislike of anyone who has a Z in their name.
Needs more Zaz.
Yeah, and him and the people of Rashashem or Rashamen. It's hard. Like words are made up, Terry. Yeah. It happens. They're hard to pronounce a lot of the times.
I'm suddenly forgiving.
Oh my god!
I'm suddenly forgiving Tolkien for the Rohirrim.
We get so many DMs complaining about how we pronounce words. Shut up! It's written down. I don't know how to say it.
Yeah, no, we could go for days. But the Rashem are Rashamen are very militaristic, barbaric people who hate Thay and they really spearhead a lot of these things. And if it wasn't for them, Zaz-Tam would rule all of Faerun with an iron gauntleted fist.
Okay,
right?
so what's the third?
Third one.
Just by the broad stroke goblinoids.
Broad strokes, yeah. Anything green with green skin versus anything with pink skin.
All right.
Oh,
right.
I mean, that's pretty straightforward.
Yeah, it's very like orcs, goblins,
Romulans. No.
Okay.
animals.
Now, what?
I don't know. I'm just sticking with a theme.
I was a free
Frogs, bullywogs,
apples.
kobolds.
Yeah.
Versus
monstrous creatures versus the civilized races as they were, right?
Okay, all right. So, what defines a civilized race? Because aren't the goblinoids technically civilized compared to an owlbear?
They have a hierarchy.
Compared to an owlbear, no.
Really? Because they have a language. They've got the ability.
And owlbears have a language as well.
They use tools.
So, well, owlbears are far more intelligent than people give them credit for.
Okay, all right. So we found D&D PETA over here, but
no, but
I'm going to kill an owlbear next time I see it.
I guess the line is
I'm going to put one in the campaign just for this.
The line rests between monstrous tendencies and more.
So are we talking chaos to law, or
chaos
are we
to
talking
law?
Good to evil?
Yes, both. Your goblins wouldn't fit in modern society, as it were, in civilized society in the Forgotten Realms, because they would just go around and they have no concept of really ownership. They go, "Oh, I like that. It's mine now," and that is just kind of the way they are.
So, would you consider then Kender to be civilized?
No, because I hate Kender with an undying passion.
Yeah, okay, all right.
But yes, they would, because they're technically half.
Hate all the Kardashians. I also hated their occupation of Bejor. So
full circle.
So would you say? I apologize to no one. So, would you say that Forgotten Realms is a high fantasy?
Oh yeah, 100%. It's wizards and.
But what's the difference between high fantasy and low fantasy for those that don't know?
High fantasy is more magic. Low fantasy is knights and
almost fairy tale. Like a dragon will exist, but it is the green dragon that breathes fire.
Exactly right.
So,
it is.
The
it is
world
knights
famous green dragon, because everything else is mundane.
Exactly right.
Yeah.
Like you might find one centaur in the woods somewhere. Maybe there are elves, but they're mostly like hidden, reclusive, fey creatures who will occasionally be like, "Here's a gift," and that's the end. Right? Like they're more Keebler than Tolkien. Sure. You understand?
Yeah. No, I'm with you. They're working in Santa's workshop.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, my next question then is just really quickly. Everybody gets one quick brief sentence, okay?
I don't know how to do that.
Who are the main players? So I've got a couple, and then you blast it out from there, okay? Who is Drizzt?
Drizzt is the good dark elf ranger with his pet panther, who's really object of power.
I feel like he's pretty. Is he pretty?
Yeah. He is part of an adventure group.
Is he good at everything, no matter what?
Is he misunderstood?
No. Well, yes. Not now. The later, the more modern, like the newer Drizzt books really explore the fact that he's eternal and all of his friends are dead, which messes with him, and they're actually really interesting. But Drizzt
emo.
Yes.
When R.A. Salvatore was originally writing the Drizzt books,
one sentence.
I told you I can't do it. When he was reading writing the books,
all the way back to the origin of this.
No. When he was writing the books,
that's the beginning.
Yeah,
because the books have not been completed.
He was actually writing them with the barbarian Wolfgar in mind.
Obviously, yes.
And then Drizzt, and then Drizzt was a side character that the fan base latched on and said, "Hey, no, you need to write more about." Drizzt.
My God, that's just like giving Jar Jar his own freaking series, though.
Oh my God, write that down.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
Okay.
He is the iconic drow anti-hero kind character. Like, I'm defeating my history and my traditions to become something new.
Okay.
Who's Elminster?
Massive, powerful wizard, fighter, cleric of Mystra.
Nope,
in old D&D, he was a level 35 character.
I was going to say, like, he's gone epic levels.
He's beyond epic levels, yeah.
Mordenkainen?
Mordenkainen is Oerth, not Forgotten Realms, but he's so powerful he kind of jumps around everywhere. He was
Gygax's wizard.
He was Gygax's wizard. Right? I don't think he was Gygax's specific character.
He was one of his friends that played in the campaign.
Yeah.
I thought he was. Someone's screaming.
But it's like,
sure he was Gygax.
Who was it? Oda Luke is Luke Gygax? Like, Oda Luke was Gary Gygax's son, right? Like, all these other characters that came into it.
Yeah, there's Big B and there's...
Maybe it wasn't
Dwarmage, and there's...
Melf. He's Melf. Sorry, Melf.
Melf?
Yeah, Luke Gygax is Melf.
And you know that these guys are...
They're a council of wizards that...
No, but you know that they are the council that they're all of Gary's friends.
Yeah.
Because all of the spells are named after them. It's Tasha's Hideous Laughter. He played a campaign with Tasha as right? Yeah. And so that's where all of these different... Leomin's...
Leomin, Big Me, Tasha... Oda Luke, Mordenkainen,
which is also Otto. No, Otto is different.
Otto is different. Yeah,
Otto's a different character. Otto's Irresistible Dance.
Yeah, Otto's new.
So
yeah.
So anyway. So is there anybody else that? Who are the bad guys? Who's the big bad guy?
There are so many. There's Zaz Tam. There is...
I just couldn't take him seriously. He could be the most terrifying lich ever, and if he was like, I am Zaztam, I'd be like, oh my, you gotta fix that.
Gnarly, dude!
I'm not taking him seriously, yeah.
A lot of the big bads are liches. There's Zaztam, there is...
What's his name from Tomb of Annihilation?
Oh, no!
Asarak?
Asarak. Who is...
Asarak?
Asarak. Or Asarak. He is an Asarak. Everyone makes that joke. But he is frequently played by Chris Perkins. When he does his things, he's played Asarak a bunch of... Asarak, damn it, Terry.
Tesseract?
Yeah. So Tesseract exists. And beyond there are like evil gods like Cyric. Not Cyril. There is the Many Arrows clan of orcs, led by Obold Many Arrow.
So there's a lot of
little bad guys in all of this,
and all this is in 5th ed.
Yeah.
Or is this? Are you bringing this up from 3.5?
Obold might be 3.5, but Zaztam and Asarak and them they are part of 5th ed. Yeah.
Okay, so all right, I'm gonna turn to Terry now.
Thank you.
Of all of the crap that Dan just spewed,
yeah.
What is the one thing, and not to say that it was crap, but Dan just spewed just a fount of information.
Yeah.
Like,
I'm overwhelmed.
just remember, it was Zazie.
Okay.
All right. So, of all of the stuff you just said, what is the thing that piques your interest? Of all the stuff that you're like, hey, you know what? I'd play in that campaign. I'd be interested in dealing with that thing.
Well, I like me a good undead. And I think the Council of Liches that you talked about, despite the awful names, how come every time somebody's a bad guy, they have to have an X or a Z in their name? Like, when that person is a baby, I would automatically identify that person as a bad guy. Because they have a Z in
Because everyone is a Locky Fidgety Gibbons Boyle.
Yeah. Anyway, but I thought that sounded pretty cool. Because we've seen, like, orc bands and stuff before. And I love those tropes, but I like
the next bad guy is going to be named Zax.
Oh, just don't.
With 8 X's, a Y, and a Z.
Just don't.
The V is silent. Don't worry about it. But, so that's the thing that jumps out to you?
Yeah. I think that would pique my interest the most.
I'm super interested in the flip side of that. This Council of Wizards that are all like epic level, super powered. Why are they not saving the world?
Right.
Why are there still orcs and liches and arch-liches and zazzes? And why do all of these things still exist when we have our Mordenkainens and our Elminsters and these guys are around? Like, why did Gandalf let a bunch of bad shit happen? Right? Like, he let Grima Wormtongue do all of that.
Yeah.
He freaking knew better, but he allowed it because he had other things to do. What are these guys up to that they're not stopping this? Was it the mini arrowed?
Is that what you're getting to? Is that could be a campaign in itself? You're exploring the idea of where are they and what they're doing?
Yeah. So I'm trying to get into the idea of the campaign inspirations for people that don't know a damn thing about the backstory.
Yeah.
Right? So what can they grab onto to start with? And then they can do their digging afterwards, right? So that's kind of what I'm asking now. Dan, what's the thing in Forgotten Realms that you're like, oh, that's cool, but I've never done it?
The Ruins of Netheril.
Sure.
Netheril. For those who will be looking it up online later. It is a massive old civilization of floating islands that have crashed to the ground, and thus there's a bunch of ruins there. And one of their cities made it into the Shadowfell for a long time, and then came back and like assaulted Mithranor and stuff like that. And it's this really cool, intriguing story of these people who ran the show across Faerun for thousands of years with their magical prowess that just stopped one day and left their artifacts everywhere.
I'm going to tell you right now that if I'm going to do that, where we're searching the fallen cities and all that, I will have one of those cities float again. The players can now have their own flying city.
Yeah.
Right?
No, that's a goal. Have a keep on a floating city that you... Well, crap, we got to go to Waterdeep today. Well, hit the aft thrusters. Let's move.
All right.
I shall play Squall, the lovable fighter.
Okay, so let's wrap up. Is there anything that we've forgotten Forgotten Realms? There's a bunch. I know that we have... There is so much lore, and if... sorry, I can't believe I didn't say this before. If you want to know more, pick up the Sword Coast Adventures Guide. All of this stuff is in there, or most of it's in there. You got to do some deep dives on some novels, but by the broad strokes for 5th ed, that's the book you're looking for. You're not going to find it in the Player's Handbook. You're not going to find it in Volo's or Xanathar's or the Dungeon Master's Guide. This is where you need to go. When I first picked up the Sword Coast Adventures Guide, like a year and a half ago, I flipped through it and I went... Garbage. New class, neat. But no, really. All of that stuff at the beginning, chapters 1 and 2, super useful for building a campaign, or at least for getting an idea on where to go with your campaign, because someone's already done the footwork to lay that out for you.
It does lay it out quite simply, I found. And I was talking to you guys before about dragging and dropping. Like, if you want to do that, you can do that quite easily with the Forgotten Realms. Forgotten Realms, we talked about it a lot, but Adam, do you like it? The Forgotten Realms.
Still not as much as some of the others. I still want Dark Sun. I still want Eberron. I liked the Curse of Strahd. I did. I like the Gothic horror. I want to play in a campaign with Cthulhu. Yeah. Right. Like I really want to go that route. Yeah. There's no place for that for me anyway in high fantasy.
Cthulhu exists in the Forgotten Realms.
We're going to do that. We're going to try that Cthulhu game. We're going to run.
Absolutely. We should broadcast it too. Anyway. So what is definitively not Forgotten Realms? We'll wrap up this conversation with what is definitively not Forgotten Realms. Eberron, which is steampunk, very high fantasy. They've got trains. I mean, it's run by magic.
I would like that, I would love that. I would make that kind of
airships. They got. I mean, the Warforged aren't robots. Don't think for a second they are, but they're a good analog of.
Yeah.
Right.
They are animated. Inanimate objects.
Inanimate
objects. Yeah. Right.
There's the Curse of Strahd, which is your gothic horror,
which takes place in the Shadowfell.
Right,
but Barovia specifically.
But it's still not Forgotten Realms. Forgotten Realms is like the prime material plane. So there's Ravnica,
which is magic.
Well,
the Gathering.
Yes. Now here's the thing that Terry said earlier about I want more cities that can be dragged and dropped into places. The new Ravnica book, Guildmaster's Guide to Ravnica, I picked it up and I'm like, ooh, Minotaurs and Loxodons. But then I actually did like a bit more of a deep dive into it, and it has a lot of really cool stuff in it that can just be picked up. This guild can be dropped into this. This faction can be dropped into this.
That's what I like. And then you can adjust it as you want to. But it takes a legwork out of it. If especially if you're a newer DM and it's just like, hey, just use somebody else's thing. Just change it a little bit.
Yeah. One of my favorite things about it is, and I don't know if you've looked into it all, they have an evil carnival.
I love it already.
That is, I don't need to know anything else, right? Like,
I love it.
I'm in, right? I'm already sold.
Evil Carnival, put a character loosely based on the Joker in there somewhere, and I'm having the time of my life.
Yeah, absolutely.
And torture me, mess me up while we're in that carnival.
Oh yeah, we're gonna go straight up cripple Batgirl.
Yeah,
right?
and that's don't rush through that in one session. That's a multiple session. We're gonna torture you over a couple of levels.
Yeah, there are 3 rings to the circus, and we're gonna spend time in each, right?
Yeah.
And the last one that I wanted to bring up is that we've said over and over again is Greyhawk.
Yeah.
So which is old school, kind of lower fantasy, not high fantasy.
And if you are taking some of these old modules and repurposing them for your 5th edition group, most of them are going to take place inside of Greyhawk, but there's nothing stopping you from saying, oh, the Keep on the Borderlands? No, yeah, that's in Amn or something, right?
Yeah, you can just drop it somewhere else in Forgotten Realms. And use what they already have sitting there in 5th edition for you. Now, we just talked a whole lot about that, or rather Dan talked a whole lot and Terry and I got schooled.
My voice is dry.
That's all right. Because the next little bit is going to be Terry and I heavy, and Dan, you can relax a little bit.
Woohoo!
But first, before we do that, I want to do a shout out to Dungeons_and_Maps. He's on Instagram. He's got a Patreon that's really, really cool for him. He makes kind of homebrew maps. He sent me one that is actually pretty badass, and I can't wait to use it in a campaign. It's like a sunken ship, but it's kind of half out of the water.
Oh, I like that.
And there's shoreline on it as well, so it's like a shipwreck that had like run up against the rocks and sunk, and then is slowly getting eaten up. But his maps come with the 1x1 inch grid on it. So if you can print them out at that size, you don't have to do any more work. And they're colored, and they're beautiful, and he does fantastic. He's Greek, right? We don't have a whole lot of D&D players that I know anyway awesome. that's from Greece. So anyway, I just wanted to give him a shout out. He's been... I look at his work all the time, and it's always fantastic. And he's prolific. There are tons of maps. So go check him out on Instagram. Again, that's at Dungeons_and_Maps. And go check out his Patreon as well if you like his stuff. So
that's awesome. That's a really good one. I'm going to check that out.
So he actually sent us a map for free.
What?
Yeah, with the one that I was just describing. So I'm going to try to... We're doing a river campaign right now, right? Yeah. So I'm going to try to work this in at some point. It's pretty badass.
So we know who to blame if that screws us.
Yeah, there will be 3 death tyrants inside of it. So.
Oh God.
Oh, good. That'll make.
We just lost a fight to 1.
That'll make a total of 5 that we've come across. So.
All right, so I want to wrap up. I know we're going long. Dan's just like grinding his teeth over there about it, but let's start talking about how you would use important touchstones in your own game. Like, how do you use Forgotten Realms in your homebrew campaign? What can you take from it?
Are we going to roll?
Yeah, let's roll initiative.
I win with a 9.
So the highest was a 9, and I still didn't win.
Yeah, but you're not last.
No, I got a 4.
Last.
You're not last.
Damn. I said that you're done talking, but here you go.
Yeah, here I go. The big thing I would
get 3
pull,
sentences. And don't be messing around with no semicolons or anything.
No. Haiku. I need a haiku.
Yeah.
How does a haiku work again? It's
575.
575?
I just want to watch them count. It's funny.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks, buddy.
All right, seriously.
No. From the realms I'd pull.
Yeah.
Don't say it back to yourself. You sound like an idiot on the internet. They'll get you.
Magnificent cities.
And?
All.
Okay, all right.
Magnificent cities, all. Monsters. Yeah, no, I give up. Yeah, I just...
than 3
you could have just said, I give up, and then that would have been done.
Yeah, hey, no, it works.
All right.
But no, I would go in and I'd pull... the way this game works, like you could go in and like pull something out of context and slap it somewhere else. Mm-hmm. You just got to know where to find it. So
you just got to pull it out and slap it.
Yeah, it's fine.
Yeah.
I would go into Tomb of Annihilation for all my fledgling DM friends out there, and I would go into the back of the book where all these traps are, and I would pull out these traps that are interesting and unique and awesome, and throw them into your games.
Okay.
I feel like Adam's
I'm taking notes. Yeah, all right, good. Yeah.
Take notes. Dan, I agree with you going second. The reason I like Forgotten Realms so much, as I touched on it earlier, because I find it's kind of neutral. You can play with it more. There's not so much pressure to do it a certain way, so you can pick something up and take it somewhere else, and a nerd is not going to have a brain aneurysm because you did it, because it's not like you're changing Greyhawk or Eberron or something. It's a little bit more forgiving in that sense.
I thought I got it wrong, but I got it right in my head. I like the weave. That's what I would use. That's one of the things that I would take from Forgotten Realms specifically. And the weave is it's not your hairstyle. It's the actual way that magic works. If you're homebrewing a campaign, you don't have to figure out where your pantheon comes from or how the magic works or what the gods did to create this special force in the world. Is already there. Mm-hmm. You can change the continent and the details and the races and the available classes. You can change absolutely everything at the base level. But when it still comes down to how the magic works and the spells that are being used, it's still there, and it lifts so nicely out of the Forgotten Realms, and you can put it on pretty much anything.
Yeah. One of the things that I find a lot of people do, and this was something that happened in Critical Role, which you are not really well versed in, Adam, but Terry and I are. In campaign 1, they really pulled heavily into the Vecna mythos and like Hand of Vecna, Eye of Vecna. You mentioned how earlier we have the Eye of Vecna now in our campaign.
I know. I dropped the Hand of Vecna in the previous campaign, and the entire table sat up, and I'm like, how do you know?
Yeah, right?
This is supposed to be a surprise, guys.
Yeah.
Have I entered that point of my D&D career now where I've lost the wonder? I know what everything is. No, not everything. But
no, there's still more. There's always more, my friend.
Yeah.
No, I actually, that stuff drives me insane a little bit, because Vecna is very much Greyhawk villain that people have just been like, and now he's here, and now he's here, and now he's here, just because he's got a very interesting story to him.
Yeah, he's been adapted over, right?
It's things like, if I understand, and I've run games where I've pulled the Pantheon out of Forgotten Realms and put it in, right?
You don't have to say anything else. I get it. When you look at all the different incarnations of Transformers, and now they're on Cybertron, and now they're on Earth, and now it's Beast Wars, and now it's...
You had best not be slamming Beast Wars.
No, I'm not. But the point is that Megatron is in all of them.
Yeah.
And how?
And Optimus Prime is in all of them.
And Starscream. Why are they in every single incarnation? It doesn't make sense, because technically they all fit in the story. Are these guys just immortal? Right? And how many times do we have to kill them before? You know what? I don't care anymore. Right? And that's how I think you feel about Vecna being pulled into Forgotten Realms. So,
but in terms of a lot of these artifacts keep on getting pulled out. But there's one artifact I put in every single one of my games, and I love it. It's the Regalia of Evil.
Tell us, what is the Regalia of Evil?
So you don't know everything.
Sounds delightful. I don't know everything.
So
I misspoke.
The Regalia of Evil are 3 magic items that, when put together, make you an evil god.
Oh.
Yeah. They are a gauntlet, a a gauntlet, a crown, and a mace. I believe there's the 3 of them. And each one has massive amounts of power to them. And each one is an artifact of their own, and each one has
like
these grand cults that work. No, like a named mace that doesn't, like, if you swing it at someone, you're using it wrong. You should be using the powers it gives you.
It's like a magical scepter.
It's more scepter than mace.
That's the type of item that you would give me, and I would just swing it, and you'd be like, you're doing it wrong. I swing with my mace, which could blow up the world.
Yeah, but I would throw the Regalia of Evil in every single last one of my campaigns.
Yeah, see, or what's the thing you throw in every one of your campaigns, Terry? Like that one item, the one thing from Forgotten Realms that you're just like, you know what, here it is. Every campaign.
I don't think there's anything in particular I throw into every campaign.
No, we actively try to remove them.
Because in my life as Terry, I'm all about variety, spice of life and all that, so I just like to explore different things. I'm not someone who feels they have to go back to the same thing all the time. I can do it, and then I'm done, and I'll forget about it for 15 years.
Oh, you see, there are definitely touchstones. There will always be a kobold named Acronis in every one of my campaigns. That just happened now. Like, this came from the last campaign, and it will always be moving forward. Yep. There's always going to be Bernard the Bard. There's always going to be...
Gage the Mage.
Sorry, no, Bernard the Bard specifically. Like or Bernard, as Terry called him. Yep. You ruined my rhyming scheme.
When we invented that name, that's what it was.
There is always going to be the deck of many things, right?
Yeah.
I'm always going to have the Sun Sword somewhere.
Mm-hmm. I do love that one. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Keith? Did you name him Keith?
His name is
Keith. Keith. Yeah.
So there are always going to be some of these little touchstones. There will probably be a lich somewhere. You may not run across him, but he's somewhere. So there's always something that I've pulled out of the 5th Ed Forgotten Realms material to drop in my homebrew campaign.
Yeah.
Right. So. And it's difficult not to do that. There's just so much that's built into D&D at this point that is, dwarves are like this in the Forgotten Realms, but they don't say that. This is just dwarves are like this in D&D.
Yeah.
So when you make your homebrew campaign and your dwarves are like this, you've technically stolen it, but it's...
Exactly, yeah. It's just, yeah.
Okay, so do you guys have any unique plot hooks that you would steal out of? Besides items, is there anything that's...
I would say, for me, for plot hooks, I won't give you guys specific plot hooks, but I would say, because of the Forgotten Realms, there's so much going... It's kind of like Canada. It's so different from coast to coast, because there's lots of things going on around. I think that you shouldn't be afraid to get creative. You're not going to offend anyone or bother anyone if you suddenly start doing a pirate plot hook at the same time as a dwarven one over here, because you have all those things surrounding you. In Forgotten Realms. That's not like that in a lot of the other campaign settings. You don't have as much leniency in Dark Sun, for example. It's very much
that's
a certain
fair.
thing, you know?
Yeah. You're not going to go rescue the princess from the wizard's tower in Dark Sun.
Right. I mean, you could reimagine it in a certain way, but that classic trope, you can get away with in Forgotten Realms. And so that means you can have a lot of different type of stuff going on. So if you have players who want to explore very different types of characters, you can fit it all in.
Dan, is there anything in particular that you would steal?
Steal? I am a big proponent of going to the adventure paths and stealing hooks, stealing characters, stealing things from those, stealing maps even. I've said in previous episodes how I'm the lazy DM, so this stuff's already written for you. So grab it and shoehorn it, fit it, grease it up, spit on it, get it in there.
Spit on it, yell at it.
How many?
Choke it.
God. All right, no, keep going.
We're getting back to the dungeon now.
All right, how many different modules have you played from 5th Ed?
From 5th Ed? Not very many. I've played Curse of Strahd and Tomb of Annihilation. Those are the 2 I've played.
You've done the Death House a couple of times.
Yeah, but that was all part of Curse of Strahd.
Not when you did it the second time.
Oh, yeah.
We did Adam's Death House.
Yeah.
We did Death House Upside Down.
Yeah, right. That thing. But back in Pathfinder days, I did the Rise of the Rune Lords, and I've done a lot of those.
You've done a lot of modules, but specifically 5th Ed, which one do you prefer to steal from?
Tomb of Annihilation. Yeah.
Why?
It's tonally easier to move it into your campaigns, I find, because a lot of Dungeons and Dragons is, you're walking through a forest or a jungle or a thing to reach the end goal. and you're running through old ruins to find the loot. So a lot of it tonally matches a majority of campaigns.
That's what we were saying before about the Forgotten Realms, is that there's all these sunken ruins and whatnot.
And Curse of Strahd is very much bleak, very Brothers Grimm era kind of tone to it. Like everything's gray and raining.
It's Gothic horror.
It's Gothic horror,
its finest,
right? So like it doesn't really fit into many traditional Dungeons and Dragons campaigns to pick and choose from there. Now, I will be pulling Argynvost out. I will be pulling Strahd himself out. I will be pulling, I'll be pulling the crones out and using them and their children pies. Right? Like I will be doing this.
Spoilers for all of these, by the way. It's way past time to declare that. But the thing that I liked about Curse of Strahd was that it gave you the villages. Here's the village, and there it is, right? And you could just take the village of Barovia or Valakai, whoever you want to pronounce it. Valaki. My God. It's like the people that call him Von Zarovich.
Here's my problem with this. I watched.
That's actually what we said.
What's Chris Perkins' one that he runs? Dice Camera Action, something like that. Yeah. And he said Valakai 3 different ways in the first episode. I was like, didn't you write this bloody thing?
Okay, so I guess the last thing that I want to do before we wrap this episode, because it's going super long.
Yep.
That's
okay.
Yeah.
You're stuck in traffic anyways.
Yeah. 2 things that we'd like to see D&D incorporate into 5th ed. But I want Terry and I to do it. I want Dan to tell us whether or not it's a good idea.
Whether or not it's going to work?
Whether or not it would fit in the Forgotten Realms specifically?
Yeah,
Okay.
Yeah, whether or not it's going to fit in Forgotten Realms. So
let's roll.
Yeah, let's roll. Let's aim for the actual...
Second time in one episode. Oh my goodness.
You got a 9. You're going first.
Did I win?
Yeah.
I win.
Oh, he's gone. He ran away.
Okay, I've been talking about drag and drop a lot. Do we think that there is room where we could get some kind of module released where we just have these blank cities, dungeons, areas, things with these maps, or where we can pick them up and drop them, and we can put them anywhere?
So,
is there room for this?
In previous editions, there was what they would call the Gazetteers. In the Storm Coast Adventure Guide, Sword Coast Adventure Guide is fairly similar to these old Gazetteers that you would be able to pull, like, I want to run specifically this city and just pull this city out. And those things existed in previous editions. Skag is very close to that, but I think...
that's what Ravnica is for.
That's what Ravnica is for.
I think they can... It technically exists in a pocket dimension.
Yeah.
Right, so it's not supposed to be in Forgotten Realms, but you can take anything from it. It is quite part and parcel. Like you can grab
and I think that you could do that with this. Like, you could grab all of the details from Waterdeep and Waterdeep Havens, or whatever they call them, and just rename it to be the massive metropolis in your own campaign. You don't even have to. It could be Waterdeep of John's Basement Group A, right? Like,
sure,
you could do these things.
Okay, all right. But my first one is it's called Dungeons and Dragons, and we don't have enough dragons in it. But my problem with dragons, and it's not, they don't really cover this on Game of Thrones, but I think about this because Jurassic Park is one of my favorite things in the whole world. Like, I love dinosaurs, and they talk about kind of how much territory a T-Rex would need just to be able to sustain its own body weight. These dragons must, like, need continents in and of themselves, like, just for their own. We have 10 different types of dragons at different ages, so there's got to be at least 4 of each. So now we're up to 40 dragons. Is there room for that shit in Forgotten Realms?
Oh, 100%.
Right, okay, but how big is the world is Toril?
Toril, so Toril itself is boundless. They say a lot of, past the Evermeet and past Karza, or I think is what they call it. Or,
Evermeet is that beef jerky that just keeps giving?
No, Evermeet is where the elves all go to. It's that very Tolkien-esque, they all get on boats, go out to the Evermeet.
Oh, those are Grey Havens?
Yeah, okay. Evermeet's very much that, and like so to the west is Evermeet, to the east is the Oriental Adventures analog.
They don't have that anymore, and that's racist to say it. That's the brand new thing, and that's why they won't do it. That's why we're getting Samurai and other things. We're never going to get quote unquote Oriental Adventures ever again. That was
the title of the book before.
Yeah. No. Right. Yeah. But that's a thing of the past now.
So the China or the Japanese, the Eastern theme, because it's very much that. Like I think there
were samurais and ninjas, and
in specifically that zone, there's like Xiaolong and Wu, and they're these very Chinese and Asian sounding city names and everything else. All that to the east, further past that, is more stuff that is kind of vague and the gods of Faerun are not even known in these realms, right? And it's very much that kind of stuff.
Right, but at that point, you're homebrewing your own stuff.
Is there
enough room in Faerun for you to have 40 freaking dragons? At what point are we impacting society so badly?
I would say yes, but only because dragon gets to a certain point where it starts, branching out and taking more and more land, and that's when the massive hordes of adventurers get thrown up against it until someone finally rolls that natural 20 and it dies.
I guess that's what because I haven't read any of the Tyranny of Dragons stuff, right? So I guess that's going after the chromatic dragons specifically.
Yeah,
you probably run into a
metallic. The metallics are far more rare than the chromatics because the chromatics breed far more than the metallics. Metallics are kind of too high and mighty for the breeding side of things.
Well, also the chromatics will shapeshift into humans, right?
Yeah, and that'll happen too. So you know
the
one
metallics shapeshift.
There's a rumor that one of the Lords of Waterdeep is a chromatic dragon. No, the chromatics do it too.
No, it's specifically.
I think we've homebrewed it that they do, but
we homebrewed it one way or the other. I can't remember now. I got to look it up in the monster manual. Only one side does and fit that.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's the metallics.
Then the metallics, sure. Yeah.
Terry's their resident
dragon expert.
Yeah. So, but
they prefer, a lot of them prefer to live amongst humans.
Yeah.
Silvers and golds.
One of the things that I want to figure out how to do is a dragon hunting campaign where you are just going out to all these different environments and going after them. And I don't mean like Rise of Tiamat style, but like you guys are level 1 rangers and you all are. I mean, ranger lowercase r. Like there's a ranger and a rogue and a barbarian and a druid, but you're all from kind of the wild, and you're going out. You're going to hunt down this wormling dragon, and as you go, you're going to exterminate every dragon on the continent.
Love it.
I think that would be a lot of fun to do.
That would get boring pretty quick.
There's got to be a way to do it. Is my point.
True. Yeah.
So
you'd have to after you've killed the 15th wormling, you'd have to figure out a way.
I think there's a way to do it. I kind of had this idea before, and I played it off the whole of being from the UK. There's the reason that Wales has a red dragon on their flag is that apparently
the red dragon. A whale.
Red dragon killed the English gold dragon or something. I'm sure someone knows the story better than me. And I like the idea of the dragons being the leaders and the dragons having their armies. Yeah. And so you face off. It's not just
against dragonborns and kobolds and you can even reskin lizard folk to be the more barbaric versions of. Yeah. Like you could do a full blown let's go balls to the wall dragon campaign and we're 4 squishy pale face whatever, right? Like humans and elves and dwarves. I think that there's got to be room in Forgotten Realms for that somewhere. Yeah, but is there?
You could be dragon riders, and you could have these air battles, like dog fighting with dragons and stuff. It'd be great.
Okay, Terry, do you have another thing that you want to see?
Is there room? Can we do this? Can we make it happen where we can put some sci-fi and fantasy campaign, as in deep pyramid, tomb, whatever, you bury it, and you come across strange machines you've never seen before?
I have an answer for you. Dan's going to be like, there's already a thing.
There is already a thing.
Mind Flayers came to Forgotten Realms in their spaceships.
Okay. Yeah, I know that. I've heard that. But does it work? Because I've never spoken to anybody who seemed to think it worked, and that's may just be the nerds and their opinions.
It feels very out of place, but there is a part in a module that I've played that has a crashed spaceship.
There's a fairly famous module that's all about the crashed spaceship.
Yeah.
I can't think now off the top of my head what it's called. And I'll throw it in the show notes when I find it. But it's pretty famous. And yes, you get laser guns and shit. I also think that it is supposed to be this stuff is supposed to have a lifespan on it as well. Like you get a handful of shots where the battery dies.
Yeah.
And it's gone. Right?
Absolutely.
So you're not running around with weapons that can take out Predator in a fantasy campaign, right?
Yeah, you got your dude swinging a sword, and then you got your Gatling laser gun. It's a little.
You got your laser guns. You get your 6 shots of disintegrate spell.
Yeah. Right. So,
and you could run it like that. Like I've seen laser guns just flavored as it's a wand of scorching ray.
Yeah,
its trigger is just a literal trigger.
Sure, I mean that's relatively, but there's got to be a way to do it. You can homebrew it, and it'll fit in Forgotten Realms because they've already kind of got it there. I don't think they have it in 5th Ed yet.
Yeah, they have.
Yeah, is that in Tomb of Annihilation? Yeah,
yeah, it is. Yeah.
All right. Is there anything that's not in Tomb of Annihilation?
There's only one dragon.
Weird. What color is it?
Red.
Of course it is. It's always a red dragon, right?
Classic. Should we wrap this sucker up?
Well, hold on. I still got my very last thing.
Oh, sorry.
Do you think that there is room for halflings? And by that I mean, why are there not? Why did the halflings get for?
Why is there no Shire?
No, not the Shire. They're just like they get a freaking 1 page in the player's handbook, and then nobody gives a shit after that, right? Like the halflings are the forgotten freaking race, and I complained about this in our Meet the DMs episode. Like, why in Forgotten Realms are halflings just like, oh, by the way, they're over here?
I know why.
They're not.
I know why.
Oh, go ahead.
Because nobody sits at home as a child and fantasizes about being a halfling like they do to be Oscar the Barbarian.
I don't know. I know a lot of people who...
a tiefling or something.
I know a lot of people who idolized Pippin and idolized Mary and idolized.
Okay, so you're saying
Sam.
A lot of people. Give me ratio percentage wise. How is it? It's 6% compared to the people wanting
even
to be
in
Conan.
R.A. Salvatore's books, which we mentioned earlier, there's Regis, who is a halfling little schemer, and he's a little rogue character. He's incredibly popular. Like, there's room for these guys in.
But
there's room, but nobody wants to play it.
No, they're always the sidekick. They're always the afterthought. They're always there's no halfling home. There's no the halfling is always the rogue because they have this one thing that they can do and that's what they do. I play a halfling barbarian right in another campaign that's kind of dead at the moment. But it is so much fun being a halfling barbarian because you're raging with the lucky feat and it's insane, right? Like you don't roll ones, right? So you're gonna hit. So I'm going crazy with it. I absolutely love it. I don't know why you wouldn't be a halfling fighter. You get your 5 attacks and you get to re-roll critical failures. Why is nobody doing that? And why is there no space in the Forgotten Realms for halflings?
You're thinking about it mechanically. I would nevid build a character mechanically. I'd build what do I want
Well,
to be.
I think that there are a lot of people out there. I'm just saying that there's a place mechanically for
He just wants to roll Brad Marchand. Just a really angry little person.
For those people that don't understand what hockey is, my point is that there's no place in 5th Ed Forgotten Realms for halflings. There isn't. They're always just like, why would you be a halfling when you could be a gnome? Right?
I completely disagree. Like, they've
you
basically...
like your Pathfinder differences between them. I'm talking specifically 5th Ed, though.
Well, no, I'm talking specifically 5th Ed as well. Like, gnomes have far more of a Fey origin with them, like, as the Tinkers, and, like, they're more closely associated with dwarves and that as well in 5th Ed, whereas your halflings are more involved in cities and involved in anything a human would be.
Why don't they have their own cities, is my point.
Because they just incorporate into human cities. Right? They're always one of the top of the numbered people in any given city. It's like humans, halflings, everything else. And it's in every city it's like that. Like, they are just the less magical little people is what they are.
But they're little villages of humans here and there.
Yeah, and there's little villages of halflings and stuff like that around. I can't name them off the top of my head because they're not as big and impressive as Waterdeep, but that's kind of the point.
Okay, it just feels like halflings get the short end of the stick in 5th Ed. Specifically, I know, yeah, that's right. There are little cities full of, we're going to do this over and over again. They get fewer pages, they get less attention, they get less renown than any of the other races.
And they like it that way, damn it.
No? I think you're just saying that. I just think that, in previous editions, they were one of the centerpieces. and they're not anymore. They've taken a backseat to gnome. 3.5 halflings were superior to gnomes. I just saw way...
just mechanically, and the only reason why they were more prevalent to the tables was because they were mechanically more powerful in a system that was very mechanically driven.
I mean, okay, that's fair. I just want to see more halflings around.
Yeah, right? No, I agree. People need to play more halflings.
So that's, I guess I use this as an
Stop playing your human variants. Or half-elf variants.
I don't play either.
No. This is to the internet.
Oh, to the internet? Yeah.
Come on, people. Stop playing your human variant.
Go crack Volos and have a field day.
Play a Minotaur. Just do it once. Get a little bit of spice of life.
So
be a little horny.
In my Tuesday... Okay. In my Tuesday group that just started up, the campaign is based around a Yuan-Ti, a Tiefling, that are both cultists from different cults. They're evil.
Yes.
Yeah, right? That they're part of the party. There's a Minotaur gladiator.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, he's a barbarian that's a zealot that can't die, but he doesn't know it because his god has blessed him. He and his brother were the two zealots that the god blessed, and his brother was then magically killed somehow. The last one is a goblin rogue as well, right? So there's room for all of these other races, and I don't think anyone's playing them, right?
Yeah, I think people are coming around to them, but remember, over the past few years, this game has blown up so much. And there's so much to learn. A lot of people are still stuck on the core classes.
This is going to go on for a while, so we're just going to call it. So it's a Mimic podcast,
and then
it's a certain amount of traditionalism with it, right?
Thank you for listening to It's a Mimic. Check us out online at itsamimic.com or on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Have questions you would like answered by the guys on the show? Send them an email to itsamimic@gmail.com. Tune in every Tuesday for more.